Welcome to CinePro, where we bring your favorite movies back to life with quick recaps, hidden details, and everything you missed. It starts with two boys playing football. One of them is called Abdi, and the other is called Idris. Idris kicks ball high because he doesn't know how to play, and it goes away among the crops. Abdi and Idris go to look for their balls, and night falls, and they hear a strange voice calling them, and the crops begin to move. A ghost appears holding their ball in its hand. Instead of running away in fear, Idris chases after the ghost to retrieve his ball. Anyway, he follows Abdi and warns him. When he arrives, he sees the ghost finishing off his friend. Idris quickly returns to the village and tells his father. The villagers gather and head to the last place Idris was. They find a lot of red color on the ground. At that moment, one of the villagers gasps and tells them there's a body in the river. When they go to check, they find Idris's body. Idris's father accuses Abdi of being responsible. But Abdi insists that a terrifying ghostly girl was the one who did it. They don't believe him until another man, whose second eye is damaged, arrives and tells Abdi he believes him. He remains silent for a while and then tells the villagers that the ghost in the forest is named Sumala, the daughter of the devil, and that everything started 29 years ago. We go back to the past and learn about a very wealthy family. The wife's name is Solistri. She serves juices to her husband, Sweet Jemin, and Uncle Munir. We find out that the uncle is visiting to claim his share of the lands, which belong to the family. This upsets Sweet Jemin and makes him uneasy. Uncle Munir looks at his wife and tells him that if he were him, he would have children with his wife to have a legitimate heir. This is the only way to keep the land. The uncle leaves, and Sweet Jemin sits with his wife, who we learn cannot conceive due to uterine problems. She promises her husband that she will find a cure to have children. He looks at the contract he took from his uncle, stands up angrily, and tells her he is not willing to give his uncle the fruits of his hard work and inheritance from his father. He gives her 1 year to conceive an heir to inherit all his properties. Otherwise, he will marry another woman. Solistri cries, then takes her car, boards a small boat, crosses the river, and visits a sorceress. She explains her problem and says she wants to conceive. The sorceress tells her she can fulfill her wish through black magic with some invocations to the devil. Solistri hesitates when she hears about Satan. The old woman continues, saying she can make her pregnant with twins. The wife hesitates but eventually agrees after recalling her husband's threat to marry another woman. The old woman begins chanting incantations, prepares a potion, and gives it to her to drink. Solistri starts moving strangely, her joints convulsing. The sorceress places her hands on her abdomen, which appears swollen, presses it down, and it returns to normal. She congratulates her, saying she will conceive within 2 months. 2 months later, the doctor confirms she is pregnant with twins. Sweet Jemin rejoices and agrees with his wife to name the girl Kamala and the boy Sumala. He orders his servant to spread the news of his wife's pregnancy throughout the village. They celebrate the pregnancy, and finally, the day of delivery arrives. The delivery is extremely difficult, and we see the devil witnessing the birth of his daughter. Solistri gives birth to 2 daughters. When her husband sees that one of the girls is deformed and hideous, he retrieves a dagger and kills her in front of his wife. He takes the other daughter, rejoices over her, and announces to the villagers that his wife has given birth to only 1 daughter, who will be his legitimate heir. Solistri is anxious, knowing that the beautiful daughter is theirs, and the other is the devil's child, as agreed with the sorceress. 3 years pass, and Kamala still cannot walk or talk. In the 4th year, she becomes agitated, screaming at her parents, and no one can control her until her father arrives, scolds the servant, and orders him to tie her hands and feet. When his wife tries to calm him down, he calls her crazy. He drags his daughter to the barn, leaving her with the animals until she learns to behave like a human. Solistri returns home, confused. 5 more years pass, and Kamala is seen in the market, where other children throw food at her, mock her, and call her crazy. She is taken back to the barn, and her father orders the servant to bring his whip. The nanny tries to stop him, but he ignores her. Kamala looks at her mother and cries, trying to win her sympathy. Her father says she embarrassed him in front of the villagers and pushes his wife away. He proceeds with what he said. Afterward, the nanny tends to Kamala's wounds and comforts her. She teaches her to play the piano to cheer her up and gives her a handmade doll as a gift for her upcoming 8th birthday. Kamala is delighted, thanks the nanny, and hugs her. She goes to sleep, but at exactly midnight, she hears a voice calling her and wakes up. She looks around but finds no one in the room until the voice repeats from inside the wardrobe. The wardrobe opens, and a very ugly girl wearing the same dress as Kamala emerges. She approaches her and says she is her twin sister. She expresses her anger at their parents for what they did to her and how they never told Kamala she had a twin sister. She strokes Kamala's hair and reassures her not to be afraid, saying they are sisters and all siblings protect each other. Kamala is overjoyed and hugs her sister. When the mirror reflection is revealed, we see Kamala alone, and we realize her sister is a ghost. Sweet Jimin is working when he hears the sound of the piano, which distracts him. He approaches Kamala and slaps her, telling her it's late. He looks at his wife and tells her to watch their daughter closely, then leaves. Solistri tries to comfort Kamala but fails and asks the nanny to take care of her. The nanny encourages Kamala to be strong. Kamala goes to her father while he is working. She moves her head and hands, which return to their normal position. She approaches him, takes the pen, and places it in his hand. Solistri enters and scolds her for what she did. The next day, he comes and raises his daughter on wood, leaving her among the plants, warning her that if she does not correct her behavior, he will continue to do this to her. Every day, Kamala calls for her mother's help, but she remains indifferent and follows her husband. Over time, Kamala's features begin to change, and Bessie is overcome with anger. As night falls, Kamala's daughter stays still for a few moments before her hands and feet return to their normal position. She stands up, walks to the table, looks at her parents, and laughs. She then starts peeing, calling her father cheekily. But as soon as Kamala sees him, she jumps at him, clinging tightly. When Sostar rises to stop her daughter, she notices the reflection of her sister's ghost, helping Kamala to move. Kamala's mother and the nanny go looking for her and find her near the barn, eating and laughing. The next day, the nanny checks on Kamala and asks why she behaved that way, to which Kamala responds that it wasn't her, but rather her sister, Sumala. The mother, upon hearing that name, becomes nervous, her expression changing, and she quickly leaves the house, remembering the witch's words. The nanny sees her leave alone and follows her, stopping by her son, noticing something wrong with his eye and instructing him to look after Kamala until she returns. She follows Solistri and sees her heading toward the river, where a young man tells her that the person she is looking for passed away a month ago. The nanny senses something is terribly wrong, and upon pressing for answers, she discovers that Solistri had made a pact with the devil to have children. A year passes, and Kamala is locked in the barn as usual. The servant raises her, then locks the door behind her as he leaves. The nanny begs Sweet Gemin to forgive his daughter, but he ignores her and walks away. She then goes to comfort Kamala, reassuring her that she will always love her no matter what, then sits and cries. Time passes, and Kamala plays in her room until the village boys invite her to join them. Excited by the invitation, she eagerly joins them for a game of football. However, they circle around her, taunting her, and when she cries, one of them smears clay on her face as they all laugh. She runs away, but the nanny intervenes, pushing the boys away and hugging Kamala. When Kamala sees that her parents had been watching and did nothing to defend her, her expression darkens. That night, Sweet Jamin and his wife sit for dinner when they hear strange noises coming from Kamala's room. Her husband tells her to ignore it. Meanwhile, Kamala, having learned to untie the ropes binding her, opens a box, retrieves a dagger, and seeks out one of the boys who bullied her. She holds the dagger before him, laughing, and when he sees the ghost of her twin sister, he screams and runs. But Sumala follows him, finishing him off and throwing him into the well. She then hunts down two more. As Kamala looks into the water, she sees the reflection of her twin sister Sumala standing beside her. Morning arrives, and the grim news of the missing children spreads. The villagers search for them for 3 days but find nothing. They turn to the village head, pleading with him to coordinate with neighboring villages in hopes of finding their children. He agrees and asks them not to let their children out after the Maghrib prayer. At the same time, Kamala visits the rest of the group, places the ball on the ground, and leaves. They come out of the door to find her waiting for them, holding a dagger, and she finishes them all off. Morning comes, and the villagers discover the bodies of their children left in the forest and also see Kamala's doll. The nanny goes to draw water from the well but finds its color red. People gather and discover a body inside the well. Suijiman arrives to see it, and when his servant informs him of the news, he goes to see the rest of the bodies. Upon returning home, the villagers gather in front of him, accusing him of being the real culprit behind what happened to their children. When he shouts at them and demands evidence, one of them shows him his daughter Komala's doll, saying they found it near the bodies. Another steps forward, saying his daughter is crazy and capable of anything. Suijiman gets angry and warns him not to speak about his daughter that way again. He drives them all away. He returns to his wife, telling her that it's impossible Kamala did this because she's locked in the barn all day. They go there together, and he tells her they need to make sure there's no way out while she's locked inside. Before he finishes talking, he notices an opening in the wooden planks. When he removes the sack, he finds out that his daughter had been escaping every day through there. He steps back, trying to control his temper, and insists that Kamala couldn't have done it. Solistri gets nervous and tells him it wasn't Kamala who did it. It was her sister, Sumala. His expression changes suddenly as he remembers what happened on the day of the birth. His wife continues, saying she's always been behind Kamala, and she's the reason for her strange actions. When he asks why she never told him before, she approaches him, hits him on the shoulder, and says it was because he was supposed to raise her, not get rid of her. She sits down, crying, saying everything has turned into chaos. Suijiman goes to his daughter Kamala's room, sits with her, and asks if Sumala is really responsible for what happened to the village children. Kamala remains silent and nervous. When he asks again and reassures her, she tells him that Sumala is indeed responsible for what happened and that she tried to stop her. But Sumala eliminates anyone who bothers her sister. Suijiman's expression changes, and he quickly leaves the room, ordering the servant to tie up Kamala. When his wife asks why, he tells her he's going to meet someone to find a solution to their problem. When she asks to go with him, he tells her to stay and watch over their daughter until he returns. Despite her expressing fear, he leaves. The servant locks Kamala up more securely than ever before, laughing as he leaves her. The nanny quickly enters with food for Kamala. Seeing the way she's tied, she feels sorry and starts crying. We learn that there's only one day left until Kamala's 10th birthday. Kamala asks her nanny to escape far away because she doesn't want her to get hurt, expressing her affection and gratitude for her kindness. The nanny hugs her, then leaves the house in tears, not wanting to abandon Kamala alone. She prays for her and departs, taking her son along, saying they must leave the house immediately. The servant enters Kamala's room, asking her to eat, but she dislikes the food and eats an insect in front of him instead. He becomes nervous and scared, leaving her alone. Meanwhile, Suijiman meets with a sheikh, who brings a bowl with flowers and tells him that his wife made a pact with the devil to conceive, resulting in twin daughters, a beautiful human girl and an ugly demonic one. When they turn 10, the devil will take his daughter and grant them happiness. The sheikh pauses, his expression changing, and tells Suijiman that he killed the daughter the devil was coming to take, and now the devil is angry with him. Suijiman asks what the solution is and how to get out of this problem. The sheikh's eyes turn white as he tells him that at midnight, when Kamala turns 10, Sumala will fully possess her, and day will turn to night. The sheikh returns to normal, and Suijiman asks if there's any way to save his daughter. The sheikh tells him they must expel Sumala from Kamala's body. If not, Kamala will permanently transform into the devil's daughter, Sumala. The sheikh hands him a dagger, saying it might help, and asks him to bring his daughter to try and save her. He warns that if the time passes, he must stab her in the heart to prevent Sumala, the devil's daughter, from living. Meanwhile, the servant wakes to Kamala calling him. He goes outside and finds her sitting and crying. Surprised at how she freed herself, he looks at her only to see her smile. She moves quickly, pulling him down and grabbing a knife. He runs back into the house, locking the door, but the knife pierces him through the side. He falls to the ground, crawling backward. Kamala enters, chasing him. When he tries to escape, she throws the knife at him, grabs him by the neck, and finishes him off. At 11:30, Solistri wakes to find her daughter. Solestri wakes to find her daughter playing the piano. When she calls Kamala's name, the girl looks at her, laughs, and asks, "Who's Kamala?" She approaches her mother with a knife. Solestri sees her reflection in the mirror, realizing it's Sumala, and that she must escape. She retreats, begging her daughter, until she backs into the servant's corpse. She runs upstairs, locking herself in her room, and barricades the door with a table. Komala breaks a piece of the door, laughing and calling her mother the devil's wife and a bad woman. Enraged, Solestri throws a chair at her. When she goes to see her, she immediately notices the anger in her eyes and instinctively steps back. At the same moment, Kamala bursts into the room, breaking the door down. Her expression shifts, her rage consuming her as she lunges at her and drives the knife into her legs. Lastri wakes up in shock, her body collapsing onto the bed. Sumala smirks and asks, "What do you think? Should I make you feel the same pain you caused me the day I was born? The day you failed to take care of me?" Sosri, trembling, responds, "It wasn't me. It was your father who did this." But Samala's expression darkens as she retorts, "Then why couldn't you protect your daughter, Kamala?" A wave of guilt washes over Sosri, and she admits her failure, tears streaming down her face. She begs to see Kamala one last time. Samala hesitates, then nods in agreement before rolling her eyes. Kamala regains consciousness, confused by the scene unfolding before her. Her mother, sobbing, reaches for her, pleading for forgiveness. "I was a terrible mother. I failed you," she cries. Overcome with emotion, Kamala breaks down and forgives her. But just as a sense of peace begins to settle, Samala steps forward and coldly states, "But I will not forgive you." With a wicked grin, she delivers the final blow, ending Sosri's life while laughing. Meanwhile, Sueg rushes home, only to find the door shattered. Panic sets in as he steps inside, his eyes landing on the lifeless body of the servant. His heart pounding, he hurries to find his wife, only to discover her dead. A cry of anguish escapes him as he collapses beside her, clutching her lifeless body. In his grief, he glances toward the chair, his breath hitching when he sees Bella sitting there. Behind her, the shadowy figure of her sister looms. Kamala slowly rises to her feet, turning to her father, her voice trembling yet firm. "Help me, father." But before he can react, Samala coils herself around him, locking eyes with him and smirking. "Did you forget me?" she taunts. In that chilling moment, the horrifying truth is revealed. The dagger he had taken from the sheikh was the very same one that sealed his fate. At the same time, Samala looks at her sister, opens her mouth, and turns into black smoke, entering her body. Suiji Man, terrified, crawls on the ground. Somala, now fully possessing her sister's body, stands up, picks up the knife, and chases her father, who runs until he trips and falls down the stairs. He holds himself together, quickly leaves the house, and runs to the village. He rings the alarm bell. When the villagers gather, they see him disheveled, telling them that his wife has died. They go to his house. When they see the body of the servant and his wife's body, they split up to search for the perpetrator. The village chief goes to Suaji Man and asks him if he knows the perpetrator. He responds by asking him to find Kamala. At that moment, one of the villagers says that she must also be the one who did this to their children. He finishes his sentence and gathers the rest of the village to find her and take revenge. Suaji Man tries to protect his daughter and asks the village chief to ensure no one harms her. But the pressure from the villagers forces him to withdraw from the matter. They enter the forest, searching for her. Suaji Man goes to retrieve the dagger he got from the sheikh. At that moment, he sees his daughter. He quickly follows her into the crops and finds her standing in front of him, laughing, then disappearing instantly. She reappears behind him, knocking him to the ground, and tries to finish him off. However, he manages to hit her several times, rendering her unconscious. He grabs the dagger to finish her off as the sheikh instructed, but he cannot bring himself to do it to his daughter. He abandons the idea, covers her face with a sack, and starts crying, apologizing for his mistakes. He tells her he will take her to the sheikh, and God willing, she will be healed. Kamala laughs and tells him that he was disabled and then recovered and became fine. But when his daughter Kamala was disabled, he couldn't deal with her and hated her, just like his family hated him, even though he wanted their love. He couldn't love his daughter. He starts crying and raises his head to find Kamala gone. He looks around until she comes and stabs the dagger into his leg. He crawls on the ground. As she follows him. He strikes her, causing her to fall to the ground, and he retrieves the dagger. He stands up, crawls, and eventually stands to stab her in the heart. He steps back to rest, but is shocked when he sees Kamala open her eyes, laugh, and stand before him. She tells him that when she possessed Kamala's body, changes occurred. For example, her teeth became fangs, her eyes turned white, and most importantly, her heart moved to the other side. Suwaji Man is stunned and realizes he has failed to eliminate the devil's daughter, as the sheikh instructed. She removes the dagger from her body and stabs it into her father's body. The night hours pass quickly, and morning comes. The villagers gather and find Suwaji Man's body tied to wood and hung, just as he used to do to his daughter Kamala. When they go to the sheikh for a solution, they find that he too has become a corpse. They bury the two bodies side by side. Time passes, and we learn that the one-eyed man is the nanny's son. He tells them that ever since Sumala possessed Kamala's body, no one has been able to reach her. He warns them not to stay outside their homes after the Maghrib prayer, especially their children. Night falls, and Abu Idris comes out, claiming the story is fake and that he is sure Abdi is the one who harmed his son. Before he can finish his words, he sees Sumala laughing in front of him. At the end of the movie, it is written that this is a true story, and it is believed that Sumala is still alive in one of the forests of Indonesia to this day. And that's it. Don't forget to like, share the video, and subscribe to the channel. See you in the next video. Goodbye.